Welcome to our channel Scary Sagas, where we bring you the most amazing true horror stories. I was extremely startled by how many things I saw and heard, considering that I grew up in one of the most metropolitan areas of my country. Growing up, I had always heard that the woods were the most haunted location. So it was a surprise to encounter such supernatural phenomena in the confines of my own home. After all the previous stories I had heard about people with a sixth sense were usually associated with rural or religious backgrounds. Intrigued me even further to discover that this gift seemed to manifest in individuals with a birthmark on their right cheek, a trait shared by my grandmother and great-great-grandmother. It made me wonder if there was a deeper connection or significance to this pattern. Despite the eerie encounters, my upbringing was otherwise wonderful, reminiscent of the carefree days of the early 2000s when my only concern was the well-being of my Tamagotchi. With my mother working a typical 9-to-5 job and my father on the night shift, my daily routine involved spending the day with my mom and the night with my dad. It was a unique arrangement that allowed me to have quality time with both of them. Each day, I would wake up and spend time with my father before eating lunch and heading off to school. Later, my father would pick up my mother, and together they would bring me back home. Shortly after, my father would leave for work, returning in the early morning hours, usually around 6 a.m. After grabbing a bite to eat during his break at 3 a.m. However, the one aspect of my daily routine that troubled me was going to bed alone. As a child, I despised the feeling of being alone in the darkness. To make matters worse, I would occasionally wake up in the middle of the night and witness shadowy figures lurking in the hallway. The sight would send shivers down my spine, even though I knew for certain that it wasn't my father. There was something about the way they moved or their size that resembled him. Yet I knew deep down that it was something otherworldly. These figures appeared as dark, floating entities, reminiscent of paranormal monsters, except they moved in complete silence and with an uncanny swiftness. As a frightened child, all I could do when I encountered these entities was stare at them, watching as more seemed to appear with every blink. Initially, there was only one, but over time, their numbers grew. My stomach would twist in terror as I counted up to 8 of them at once, moving in perfect unison between the rooms of the house. They would glide between the kitchen, living room, dining room, and even the bathroom in an eerie, synchronized dance. The memory of those nights still sends shivers down my spine, and I can recall waking up the next morning, feeling a mix of relief and confusion about what I had witnessed. 2 years later, worn down by exhaustion, depression, and frustrations from my school life, I reached a breaking point. Those relentless shadows denied me the peace and solace I so desperately craved that night. With a surge of courage, I approached my bedroom door frame and called out, "Daddy, is it you?" My 8-year-old heart may have been brave, but my logic wasn't always the sharpest. To my surprise, I found myself instantly less afraid as all the shadowy figures turned simultaneously to face me, their gaze devoid of any emotion. They simply stared back at me with empty eyes before quietly vanishing, dissipating like morning fog giving way to daylight. The atmosphere in the room suddenly became calm, and I felt a sense of relief wash over me. After that encounter, I never saw those shadowy figures again. Although I couldn't fully understand why they were there or what purpose they served, I couldn't deny that they had been harmless. Perhaps, just perhaps, They were as afraid of me as I was of them. Or maybe they didn't realize that someone could actually see them and had chosen to move elsewhere or conceal themselves better. While they remained a mystery, I could attest that their gaze felt far less ominous than that of some living beings I had encountered. It served as a reminder that the unknown can be both intriguing and potentially dangerous, and one should never let their guard down. However, it is also important to recognize that not all strange things are inherently malicious or harmful. And so, this chapter of my life concluded, leaving me with a lasting curiosity and a sense of wonder about the unseen realms that coexist with our own. The memory of those shadowy figures, their mysterious presence, and their eventual departure has become a part of my personal journey, a testament to the inexplicable and the complexity of the human experience. When I was approximately 10 years old, things took a turn for the unusual, and my bizarre occurrences reached their peak. Shadows became a regular part of my daily life, appearing both during the day and at night. But there was one particular shadow that stood out. It was different, more physical. If you're a fan of horror films, you may have come across the concept of poltergeist ghosts with the ability to interact with and move objects. Well, I believe I had a first-hand encounter with one of these entities right in my own home. The circumstances leading up to this eerie experience were rooted in my younger brother's delicate health. He had a weak immune system, which meant monthly visits to the pediatrician with my parents. As they would take quite some time there, and considering our safe neighborhood and my impeccable behavior, they decided to leave me home alone. We all knew the rules. Don't answer the door, don't engage in conversation with strangers, and if someone asks about our parents, just say they are in the shower or asleep. Besides, I was accustomed to their absence, as they would usually be back in a little over an hour. On this particular day, as my family prepared to leave, I noticed a shadow dancing on the living room window. Alarmed, I informed my father, who checked but found nothing and dismissed it as all in my head. With that, they set off for the doctor's appointment, leaving me alone at home. Yet, as soon as they left, an unsettling feeling washed over me, as if invisible eyes were watching my every move. Determined to shake off this unease, I made the impulsive decision to step outside. I thought some fresh air and playtime with my toys and sticks would help dispel the lingering sense of dread. Immersed in the make-believe telenovelas I created with my Barbie dolls and teddy bears, I started to regain my sense of security. But just as I reached for my volleyball to practice the throwing techniques my mother had taught me, something peculiar occurred. The ball seemed to float in midair, defying gravity as if someone or something else was holding it, not just swaying it from side to side. Panic set in, and I sprinted back inside, seeking refuge in my parents' bathroom, hoping to find safety within its walls. As I shut the bathroom door, the handle began to move, as if someone on the other side was attempting to gain entry. At that moment, the terror was palpable, and a glimmer of hope sparked within me when I heard my parents' voices and the sound of the car pulling into the driveway. Hastily, I flung open the door, tears streaming down my face. They asked if I was worried because they seemed to be taking longer than usual, and despite not fully understanding why, I replied with a trembling yes. From that day on, I started locking the bathroom door every time I entered and vowed never to take a shower when nobody was home. Even though it has been around 10 years since that incident, I can't help but feel compelled to turn that lock and secure those windows, haunted by the memory of the power and confidence that thing exerted on that handle. The events of that day have stayed with me, a constant reminder of the inexplicable and the unknown that coexist alongside our everyday lives. It is a chilling tale that serves as a testament to the existence of forces beyond our comprehension, and the impact they can have on our sense of security and well-being. Even now, as I recount the story, a shiver runs down my spine, reigniting a sense of excitement and curiosity about the mysteries that lie just beyond the veil of our perception. I'm going to discuss two separate homes, each of which possess supernatural energy or presence. In the first home, in Bristol, something sinister lurked within its walls. Growing up, my dad, a spiritual medium, always spoke openly about the paranormal, instilling in us a fascination with the otherworldly. But even he was skeptical, having encountered his fair share of charlatans in his career. The house had an eerie atmosphere, especially in the front bedroom. The family cat refused to enter, hissing and arching its back when placed inside, and my dad felt uneasy there, avoiding it whenever possible. One day, while he was alone in the living room, he heard heavy footsteps from the room above. The footsteps seemed deliberate, as if someone was intentionally making their presence known. Terrified, he would wait for his parents to return before entering the house. His mother dismissed his claims until she had her own terrifying experience. As she dozed off in the master bedroom, she felt hands grab her throat, choking her. There was no one else in the room, yet she fought against an invisible attacker. The next morning, bruises marked her neck. Strangely, only the female members of the family experienced such horrifying events. Even I had my share of spine-chilling encounters in that house. As a child, I screamed and cried, claiming that a bad man had entered the room and tried to take me. While it could have been a mere nightmare, the fear it instilled in my parents was undeniable. Determined to put an end to the haunting, my dad performed a seance and cleansing, connecting with a malevolent presence. He visualized a middle-aged man with a red face, sensing his deep animosity toward women. After urging the spirit to move on and conducting a purification ceremony, the choking incidents ceased, but the bedroom remained haunted. Strange occurrences were not limited to the front bedroom. Guests saw a grinning monk melt into a wall, and I frequently heard footsteps on the stairs and witnessed the lock on my door swing open on its own. My mother even saw a pair of disembodied tartan slippers, reminiscent of my dad's grandmother, descend the stairs. The house was filled with inexplicable phenomena. Sadly, financial instability led my parents to lose the property they had remortgaged. We relocated to another home when I was 6, but that's not the one I'll be discussing next. At 9, we settled in a council apartment in rural Gloucestershire. This home had a different vibe, not as malevolent as the previous one. It was a small 2-story house with an overgrown backyard that became a playground for my sister and me. However, there were still unexplained occurrences that left us puzzled. One day, while my sister and I were playing in our bedroom, we heard a loud bang from the toilet. Despite being able to see the landing from our bed, there was no one there. The voice that followed, sounding like our father's but distorted, greeted us in a terrible sing-song manner. We assumed it was our dad joking around, nervously laughing in response. But his furious outburst upon entering the room proved that he had not been the source of the voice. The terrifying realization hit us that something else was in the house. Afterward, we heard more thumps from the restroom and the voice calling me, "Come here." Each time, our father was forced to intervene, but the source of the voice remained elusive. As if the attic held the answers, we witnessed our father checking the open trapdoor. Nothing was found, but the haunting continued. For a week, stomping footsteps resonated from above our bedroom, shaking the ceiling and filling us with terror. I sought refuge in the bottom bunk, too frightened to sleep alone. Years later, while reminiscing over childhood memories, my sister denied recalling the incidents. However, when we stumbled upon a journal article detailing our encounter with the strange voice in the attic, she couldn't deny the truth any longer. These two homes, each with its own supernatural presence, raise more questions than they answer. What was the origin of the haunting in House 1, with its oppressive atmosphere and unexplained phenomena? And what lurked in the council apartment, mimicking our father's voice and tormenting us from the attic? These stories will leave you pondering the existence of the paranormal and craving further understanding of the mysteries that lie beyond our comprehension. I grew up in an ancient house in central Indiana between the ages of 7 and 14. With a lifespan of more than a century, this residence was among the oldest in the area, holding stories and secrets within its walls. From the moment my family moved in, I could sense an eerie presence that seemed to linger in every room. In this house, I never felt at ease. The unsettling occurrences were frequent and inexplainable. The radio would turn on by itself, playing static-filled tunes that sent shivers down my spine. There were times when I heard phantom footfalls on the stairs as if someone was climbing up and down even when no one else was around. Perhaps the most unsettling event was when I witnessed a bench rising off the floor without any logical explanation. The first incident involving a supernatural encounter happened to my father. It was a typical morning as he sat in the center room, tying his shoe before heading off to work. Suddenly, an inexplicable feeling washed over him, compelling him to cast a glance toward the kitchen. As he turned his head, his eyes widened in disbelief. A figure, cloaked in shadows, had entered the kitchen through the basement entrance. The sight left my father startled and bewildered, for he knew he was the only one in the house. I, too, had my own terrifying encounter within those haunted walls. As I mentioned earlier, sleep never came easily to me in that house. I spent countless nights waiting for my father to get up for work, finding solace in his presence. One particular night, as I sat in the living room watching television, I felt an increasing sense of unease creeping up on me. The atmosphere shifted, and a chill ran down my spine. I couldn't help but turn my gaze towards the living room door, only to be met with a sight that would haunt my dreams for years to come. There, in the dim light, I saw a figure. It appeared to have a square-shaped skull and was transparent, its ghostly form peeking over the door frame, fixated on me. Paralyzed with fear, I realized that this door was the sole exit from the living room, trapping me in its terrifying presence. In a moment of desperation, I quickly grabbed a blanket nearby and wrapped it around my head, hoping that if I couldn't see it, it couldn't harm me. I waited, my heart pounding in my chest, praying for the specter to disappear. After what felt like an eternity, the presence vanished, leaving me trembling and questioning my own sanity. As time went on, these encounters continued to haunt us, each incident adding another layer to the mystery of our ancient house. We sought answers from local historians, hoping to uncover the secrets that lay hidden within its walls. We discovered tales of previous occupants and the tragedies they had endured, speculating that their spirits may still linger, unable to find peace. Now, as I stand here, years later, reflecting on those unsettling experiences, I wonder if the stories and encounters were mere figments of an overactive imagination, or if there truly was something supernatural residing in that house. The unanswered questions continue to fuel my curiosity, leaving me with a sense of both excitement and trepidation about the ending of this haunted tale. A recent tale about a supposed glimmer man brought back a long-forgotten memory from my distant past. People often remark on the exposed brick at my mom's 1911-built home in Bonnie Brae, Denver. There is undoubtedly a vibe in the region, which once served as the home of Denver's Irish working class. But let me take you to that captivating moment when a mysterious presence made its presence known. My brother and I were innocently playing with cardboard blocks when his head suddenly turned, his gaze fixated down the hallway. Curiosity piqued, I rushed over to investigate, only to find nothing there. Was it a figment of his imagination? I couldn't be certain, for the chill it sent down my spine suggested otherwise. Days later, I found myself descending into the basement, that eerie and unfinished space that always sent shivers down my spine. Each step creaked beneath my feet as I gingerly made my way down. The cool touch of ancient concrete greeted my bare feet, intensifying the sense of foreboding. With trepidation, I reached for the light switch, half expecting to encounter a legion of spiders. But none were to be found. My attention turned to the back chamber, the darkest and spookiest corner of the basement. Summoning all my courage, I peeked around the corner, only to be met with a sight that nearly sent me tumbling backward in fear. A figure occupying the antique rocking chair. My heart raced as I sprinted upstairs, sobbing for my mother. She accompanied me back downstairs, assuring me that no one was there. I felt a mix of relief and confusion as we returned to the room, where indeed no one could be found. But there it was, the rocking chair, gently swaying as if someone had just vacated it. My mother dismissed my pleas, attributing the movement to a bump I must have accidentally caused. Disheartened, I accepted her explanation and filed the incident away as a trick of the light. Little did I know that years later, reminiscing with my brother, we would both recall the same intriguing details. A figure, human-like yet veiled in shadows, seemed to be composed of shimmering vapor or a thin mist. Our descriptions matched, validating the inexplicable encounter we had both experienced. Although subsequent visits to my mother's house have been devoid of such phenomena, I can't help but wonder about the nature of that apparition. Whether it be a ghost, a mysterious shadow person, or something entirely beyond our understanding, I can't shake the feeling that it meant us no harm. In fact, it might have watched over us, silently observing our growth, and serving as a guardian angel of sorts. Even now, as my mother continues to reside in that house, and I visit frequently, I haven't encountered anything quite like that again. And amidst it all, I find solace in the fact that there have been no negative emotions associated with the presence. They seem to like that these stories will leave you with more questions than answers. They are a reminder that sometimes the truth is much darker and more mysterious than we ever imagined. Join us next time on Scary Sagas for other spine-chilling true stories.